Hegseth has once again gone to extreme lengths to win Donald Trump's approval, with actions so over the top that reports now suggest those around him staged an intervention. Yes, an intervention for the Secretary of Defense over how far he's gone. We'll get into all the details, but first, if you find value in our content, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps support our work. Whenever Hegseth makes a major misstep, he seems to overcompensate by praising Trump, and today was no different. He pushed the narrative that this questionable takeover of D.C. was one of the greatest events in history. Before we break down Hegseth's attempts to appease Trump and the intervention that followed, we start with Senator Chris Murphy's sharp criticism of the entire situation.
Let's be clear about what's going on here. Donald Trump says that he is taking control of the Washington, D.C. police force today because violent crime is out of control in the capital city. But you know what are the two cities in America with the highest rates of homicide? It's not Washington, D.C., it's St. Louis, Missouri, and Memphis, Tennessee. Those are cities in two states run by Republican governors. In fact, if you look at the states that have the highest murder rates, the highest rates of violent crime, by and large, they are Republican states, not Democratic states. States like Connecticut, Massachusetts, California, amongst the safest states in the nation. This isn't about the safety of the people of Washington, D.C. This is about a president who is desperate to distract the conversation in this country away from what he is doing, to monetize the White House, to make himself rich off of his position, to distract this country from the Epstein debacle, his attempt to try to shield the rich and powerful from accountability, and the healthcare crisis that is coming in this country when millions of people get thrown off their healthcare insurance and millions more in just a few months have their premiums jacked up because of what Donald Trump has done to try to pass tax cuts for the wealthy by throwing people off their healthcare. So understand, this has nothing to do with the safety of people in Washington, D.C. The most violent cities are in Republican states, and there's no federal government, there's no National Guard, there's no U.S. military coming into those cities. This is not about safety. This is all about trying to distract from Donald Trump's corruption and his thievery.
Donald Trump has no real justification for this. And neither does Pete Hegseth. This is simply two insecure men trying to project strength while laying the groundwork for sending the National Guard into cities nationwide. They use that excuse in LA by claiming riots were breaking out everywhere, which wasn't true. And in D.C., there were no riots at all, yet the action was still taken. Why? Because Trump wanted it. It's an attempt to normalize this kind of show of force across the country and to intimidate, just as Hegseth did here before we even get into the details of the leaked report.
At your direction, this morning, we've mobilized the D.C. National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the D.C. Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the President noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing, working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful. And as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong, we're right behind you.
This is all just a show. It's the fake tough guy act we constantly see out of this administration, pretending that there is any reason for any of their actions when there is no such case that you can point to for why Donald Trump needs to take over D.C., why Pam Bondi is equipped to lead a TEA takedown on crime when the real crime is just happening within the White House and also at the Pentagon, where Pete Hegseth has been so crazed and so out of control that an intervention was staged for him, and we're going to get into it. Hegseth warned about his endless Pentagon scandals. Some officials have even staged an intervention over his latest snafu. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been privately told to change course over fears that he could get himself fired. According to a report, as scandals continue to plague the Pentagon, officials in and outside of the Pentagon even staged an intervention with Hegseth Politico reports amid his latest drama surrounding his decision to fire 3 Pentagon aides while accusing them of leaking from the department. Multiple Trump administration officials, including those in the Pentagon and the White House, fear the men fired by HEGs this spring, Darren Selnick, Dan Caldwell, and Colin Carroll, were wrongfully accused. The outlet added, some White House officials and aides for Vice President J.D. Vance even began conducting their own investigations and asked for proof the 3 were actually behind any leaks which Hegseth team did not have. Unnamed support sources told Politico, there's going to be more shoes to drop all around. A person close to Hegseth told the publication, Hegseth's tenure as defense secretary has been marred by wave after wave of scandal, including the furor over the existence of a signal chat where plans to attack Houthi rebels in Yemen were openly discussed among Trump administration officials alongside the Atlantic's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg, who was accidentally added to the chat. Heggs also allegedly took it upon himself to halt the shipments of U.S. military aid to Ukraine, which President Donald Trump went on to overturn. Trump later had to play dumb to reporters and claim he didn't know who authorized the suspension while sitting next to the defense secretary. Pete Hegseth is reportedly facing Pentagon pressure over his job, which may explain his non-stop media push to look tough and win Donald Trump's approval. But neither he nor Pam Bondi has shown they can run their own agencies, and even Trump, behind the scenes, seems to know it. Bondi avoided pursuing the Epstein case, and Hegseth struggles to lead the Pentagon. Yet, Trump is using them while pushing for another takeover, this time in Texas, where Representative Jasmine Crockett is speaking out.
When they thought they were being so smart and sitting us out, there was still this hearing that was set, and it allowed for this subcommittee to go ahead in a bipartisan way, subpoena those files. It took Comer a little bit before he actually sent the subpoena off, but he did finally send the subpoena off. And so I believe they get up to 30 days or so to return the documents to us. And that letter just went out. So we don't have them yet, or at least I've not been informed that we have them. And I don't anticipate that they're going to turn anything in early. But I do want to make a comment about this other kind of request that we're making. I think that for so long, there's so many women that were not believed, or if they were believed, their pain and trauma was minimized. This is why we saw the slap on the wrist for Epstein himself. And this is why now we see that this convicted felon who was given 20 years is now getting the pamper treatment. I do think it is important that we allow those that actually want to be heard, because we do live in a crazy environment where, unfortunately, sometimes speaking out and telling your truth can lead to people wishing or trying to cause some harm to you. But I do think that it is time for those that are survivors and want to be heard, for them to absolutely have a platform that is open to hearing their truth.
Chairman Comer postponed, Maxwell's deposition until the Supreme Court makes the decision on her case. What would you ask Maxwell, and do you think we'll ever find out what Todd Blanche asked her?
Yeah, here's the deal. I personally think that she's already been tainted. So I'm not really sure what I would ask her. As I've sat through some of these depositions, as well as just some of these transcribed interviews, I oftentimes listen to the majority's attorneys go through their questions that typically are not very good. And then every once in a while, maybe somebody else will chime in. But honestly, as a trained attorney, I then come back and I summarize and I do my best to kind of kill any and everything that they've done that kind of doesn't make sense. So I recently had a situation like that as it relates to another matter. So I will say this: I don't trust that she would ever be as transparent as we need her to be, because she wants this very corrupt president to go ahead and let her go free. And I personally really want to know about any and everybody. I don't really have this idea of I'm just wanting to know whether or not Trump is a creep, which I think we already know that. I don't know that we necessarily need to talk to her to know that he's a creep. But I want to know, how is it that this was allowed to go on? I want to know how deep this goes. I want to know, if she's aware as to why, Epstein was let go with a slap on the wrist. These are the things that I would want to dig into, so that any and everybody that was involved in the cover up, because the crime is absolutely horrific. But the problem is that we've had so many people that have covered for these criminals, just like we have those that are sitting in the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, as well as the Supreme Court, that are covering for the criminal in chief that's currently in the White House.
And the best way to find out how far this goes, the question you're asking, is to release the files. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, thank you very much for coming.
This is exactly the fight Democrats need to bring. Governors like Newsom, Pritzker, and Hochul should move forward with aggressive redistricting, even if Texas's gerrymander is blocked or delayed. Republicans have used gerrymandering for years to gain and hold power. So Democrats should use every legal tool to level the playing field. The ultimate goal should be passing a federal bill for independent redistricting commissions nationwide. And if strategic Democratic maps are what it takes to get there, so be it. With the midterms approaching, Democrats need every advantage they can get. Thanks for watching this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.